Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day it is for you. This is the Den, episode number 10, episode number 11, SWAT/12. So 11/12. This is our post-game coverage of the win and our pre-game coverage versus the Houston Texans. My apologies, I cannot talk today, but as you see, it is me solo today on this podcast for this episode. Unfortunately, Matt's under the weather, so I am going to record these two. We're going to merge them. I'm going to call it episode 11/12. I wanted to get started first by just going over the recap of our win versus the Tennessee Titans. Our final score was 24-17 Bears. Just sort of our game recap here. We're gonna go over some important plays, um, and yeah, just sort of the key plays throughout the game. But like I said before, our final score was 24-17 for the Bears. Just sort of our game changer, our key plays, our game changers that happened throughout this game. Daniel Hardy blocks a punt in the third quarter, leading to an easy scoop and score by Jonathan Owens. Um, that's literally the turning point of this game. It was from there that the Bears really turned it on, and the defense shut the Titans down. Another key play, Tyreek Stevenson pick six. Daryl Taylor with the sack fumble. Um, Basically, those three plays were the big keys, and the common thread with all three of those turnovers. Um, Turnovers leading to a score. The Bears win the turnover battle. They had three turnovers forced, two interceptions, one by Jalen to seal the game, and one by Tyreek Stevenson. And they also had the fumble recovery from the Daryl Taylor sack. We won it 3-1. Our one turnover, obviously everybody saw that, was Velus Jones Jr. fumbling the kickoff and kicking it 15 damn yards in front of him. But yeah, those are our key plays in that game. Moving on, our second segment is just noting some of our offensive stars and defensive heroes, um, and sort of like what happened with special teams as well. So our offensive stars, I wrote down that there was none. I didn't think there was anybody that really uh, did much on offense to warrant being mentioned. I mean, look, it's Caleb's first start, and he struggled. He struggled with accuracy. He missed some balls downfield, uh, some easy throws downfield, um, and he just didn't look comfortable. Our line, and that was a key that we had mentioned going into the pregame in the last episode, was how our offensive line would fare against a very formidable Titans defensive line. And I mean, you guys have seen some of the highlights. Coleman Shelton getting absolutely blasted. Nate Davis getting yanked and replaced by Bates. It was not a very pretty sight on that offensive line, and it's only going to get harder moving on. Um, yeah. So offensive stars, I put none. Caleb struggled. He went 14-29. I don't know, what is it, like 40 something percent of his passes for 93 yards, a 22 and a half QBR, and a 55.7 rating. DeAndre Swift had 10 carries for 30 yards. He had one long run of 20 yards, and then obviously the other 9 carries were a total of 10 yards to make him 30 for the game. Defensive heroes, there was a number of them. Darrell Taylor, unbelievable game, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. And me and Matt mentioned that the guy opposite of Sweat is really important. And as of right now, the trade's looking really good, right? We got tremendous value for for Taylor. from the Seahawks. So right now, as of right now, he's producing. We'll see if that continues moving forward throughout the season. But I'm curious to see if he continues this level of play. Like I'm not expecting him to get 2 sacks every single game, but it's nice when he produces opposite of Sweat, especially when Sweat sort of he was listed on the injury report earlier in the week. So hopefully, whatever nagging little injury that's bothering him is no more. Special teams, obviously, we have to mention Daniel Hardy's punt block and Jonathan Owen's scoop and score. Important play. Literally turned the game around for us. Yeah. Moving on, our predictions from the last episode. Um, uh, I predicted a score of 31-14 Bears. I was close. Obviously not correct, but I was correct in saying that there would be a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown. Um, and both happened. We had the INT return for a touchdown and a blocked punt return for a touchdown. So, we were sort of right in that prediction. Also, in my predictions in episode 10, I mentioned the more the ball was in Will Levis's hands, the better chance the Bears had to win. And the more the ball was in Will Levis's hands in the second half, the better shot we actually come out and get the win. It was important. We had noted that the Titans needed to get Pollard going early, and early he did. I don't know what his final stat line was, but he rushed for a pretty long touchdown in the first half, which I thought they got away with a holding. I thought Brisker got held trying to reach out and make the tackle, but it is what it is. It ends up evening itself out. Nemo also predicted the score pretty close. He said 24-17. But in actuality, he said 27-17 with a field goal either way for either team. So technically, he was sort of right. But yeah, Matt did a pretty good job, a far better job than I did at predicting the score. So yeah, kudos to Matt for that. But yeah, moving on. Our fourth segment, our PT dubs, our players to watch for the week. On offense, mine was Keenan Allen. He had a team high 11 targets, 4 receptions for only 29 yards. I was really interested in seeing how they would fit him into the system and if Caleb was going to use him quite a bit. And obviously, he led the team in targets. He had 4 receptions, 29 yards, but he dropped Caleb's first touchdown pass in the front of the end zone. I think that was in the first half. It might have been the second half. I don't really remember, but he dropped a sure. It was a really good throw, hit him right in the hands. He'll tell you he's got to catch that. But yeah, my defensive pick was Tyreek Stevenson. Obviously, comes up with a huge interception, but he finished the day with 4 tackles, 2 pass deflections, 1 INT, and which he returned for a touchdown. So overall, right now, my PT Dub players to watch from last week actually played pretty well. Keenan Allen obviously could have done a lot better. A lot of those targets were not very good throws by Caleb. Obviously, we said he struggled early, but it is his first game. I'm not so much worried about that. But yeah, Matt's players to watch were DeAndre Swift, who had a stinker of a game, was really quiet. Aside from the one long run of 20 yards, he only had 10 carries for 30 yards. And Montez Sweat, I don't know what his stat line was. I don't think it was great. I don't think he came up with a sack, but I'm pretty sure he did get a few pressures and a few tackles for the losses. But yeah, that's that's basically the game. Segment 5. So this is where I'm gonna sort of blend in uh, this 11th episode and the 12th episode because this segment is called "Looking Ahead." Obviously, our upcoming game is Sunday night. Bears Texans, and one of the areas for improvement, and it's a glaring uh, area that needs improvement, and I don't know how we're going to improve upon it. Maybe if we get Karan Amagaji in, but I don't know where he's going to sort of fit in because the strong point of our line is our tackles. I thought Borum played well and Wright played well, Darnell Wright. But the three up front, Tevin Jenkins was okay. But Coleman Shelton, Nate Davis, Ryan Bates, that sort of combo at center and right guard was terrible. Now, mind you, they did draft, or the Titans did draft with the second round, Tavondre Sweat, who was just a massive individual who really showed up and played really well. But if you go back and look at the film, there is one glaring play that just sort of stood out to me to let me know that these guys really are not communicating, or they just haven't quite meshed well enough to figure it out. I think it was, I don't know if Caleb actually got sacked or he ended up getting rid of it or getting out of the pocket, but there was three guys on the right side. So it was Shelton, it was, I think it was Bates at the time, and Darnell Wright are literally all blocking the same guy in Jeffrey Simmons. I think he did get sacked. And somebody, it was just a simple stunt. It wasn't even like an exotic blitz. It was a stunt where where, if you guys know what a stunt is, the end sort of crashes down, D tackle comes around, but whatever. Um, it was a quick little stunt, and Shelton is so tied up from the center spot all the way over to right tackle that he leaves this wide open gap where the lineman just flies right through, and there's pressure immediately in Caleb's face. And to me, that is just a glaring observation from me that I noticed that this line needs to be more cohesive. And the only way we are going to be successful moving forward with a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback, is to get him comfortable, and we need to eliminate the pressure from right up the middle. That is going to be his Achilles heel. Is if he cannot step up at all in the pocket and he's forced to roll either direction. Now, look, he's dynamic either direction and on the run and throwing off platform. But if he can get better in the pocket, Caleb Williams will be a perennial MVP threat if he becomes a more efficient pocket passer. And for us, our line needs to hold up for him. Sorry. So moving on, our season outlook. Right now we're 1-0. Obviously, our very first game, 1-0 at Soldier Field at home. Caleb gets his first win under his belt. It's not pretty for him. The defense, the special teams really stood out and showed out for him this past week. So yeah, overall, was it a fun and exciting game to watch? Absolutely. Like we said, the Titans had to get the run game started. They did in the first half, and then it was sort of shut down. And the key for the Bears was keep getting the ball in Will Levis's hands and forcing him to beat us, which clearly he cannot do it by himself, even with a trio of receivers that are excellent in Hopkins, Boyd, and why am I forgetting the third one? Either way, the trio of receivers that they had over there is pretty good. Um, but yeah, moving on, we have our Bears versus Texans. This would have been episode 12, but with Matt not feeling too well, feeling under the weather, I'm just going to blend in 11 and 12 together. Oof. Um, so, moving on to our outlook of the Bears going up against the Houston Texans. So, obviously, the importance of this week is this game can be a sort of a measuring stick for our Bears, because this is a Texans team that was led by a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud last year. led to the playoffs, right? That's the team that we sort of want to be this year, a team led by a rookie quarterback with really good vets around him. Um, a lot of targets to throw to, and a team that made it to the playoffs. So this could be a measuring stick game to see if we can match up well with that team and how well we match up with that team. Right now, I know the Bears are underdogs. Um, I know I'm not feeling too great about this game because of how good the Texans are, but we will see moving forward. Um, our key matchups to watch: the quarterback position. Obviously, Caleb Williams struggled in his debut. There's no denying that. But he is a rookie with a mediocre offensive line, a lot of targets. But if he's getting pressure in his face, he's got no time. I'm not going to say it's an excuse, but we have to be realistic when thinking about what we're expecting out of Caleb if our line cannot protect him. We've had the problem for years, going back to Jay Cutler being one of the most sacked quarterbacks. Moving on to Mitch Trubisky, who was running for his life a lot of the time. Then to Justin Fields, who was a dynamic runner. Thank goodness he was a dynamic runner because he too was running for his life. So we've done enough to build around Caleb with targets like Keenan Allen, with drafting Roma Dunze, but we have not addressed our offensive line. Sure, we thought we did, bringing in Bates, bringing in Shelton, drafting Karan Amagaji, but clearly Bates is now on IR. Shelton played terrible, probably one of the worst PFF rated centers in the league this past week. And Amagaji's coming off an injury that he sustained in college, so he's still sort of not a key component to the line. So, um, you know, not to say it's an excuse, but I feel bad for Caleb when he's getting pressure right up the middle and he's sort of forced to try to make some magic happen rolling out of the pocket. But moving on, obviously CJ Stroud is the Houston Texans quarterback, and this is his second year. He's the former number 2 overall pick, one offensive rookie of the year last year, and he's literally just an absolute stud. He's a prolific passer. The guy can sit in the pocket and pick you apart if you give him time. And I don't know that he's not as good as Caleb as far as improvising and being able to throw on the run. Does he do it? Yes. Um, but he's better served for that Texans team if he is in the pocket. Um, Offensive line versus defensive line. Uh, we're in for another rude awakening. Our offensive line versus the Texans D line. It's a number of vets. Obviously, Will Anderson was a top pick. I think he was number 3 overall because I think they went 2 and 3. They got Stroud, traded up to get the number 3 pick, and then drafted Will Anderson. So I mean, he was drafted 3rd overall for a reason. And so we're gonna have our hands full with that Texans line. They brought in Daniil Hunter, a guy that I was hoping the Bears would target in the offseason. So to have Anderson on one side, Hunter on the other, one of them is going to be left alone, and one of them is going to be making plays. Um, if I were the Texans, I'm going to do all I can to try and keep Caleb in the pocket because the only way he can really, really, really hurt us or really, really hurt the Texans, really, really hurt them, is if he's outside of the pocket and he's rolling and he's making plays with his feet and he's making some of these incredible throws that he makes off platform and on the run. That's just something that I know the Texans are going to key in on and try not to allow to happen. But the vice versa, the Texans O line versus the Bears D line. Um, I think our D line matches up pretty good against the Texans line. Obviously, they have Tunsil there. Their center Juice, what's his name, Juice Scruggs is questionable. So if he's banged up and he's playing, that could be good for Billings and Dexter to sort of beat up on him a little bit. C.J. Stroud was sacked a lot last year. I think one game he ended up getting sacked 6 or 7 times. So if we can continue to pressure CJ and make him uncomfortable, he's not really prone to too many turnovers. But I think if it's pressure after pressure after pressure, he's going to give the ball away eventually, especially with a secondary like the Bears have. Um, but CJ's got targets, so we'll see. I think our D line matches up really, really well against this offensive line. All right, moving on. Our game plan and strategy for the game against the Texans. We're going to start with the Bear strategy and what I feel like will help hopefully get the Bears a win. Offensively, we need to get Swift involved early so that Caleb can get comfortable. And in doing so, that will also help the Bears control the clock. The less CJ and company are on the field, the better for the Bears. It gives them less chances to score, less chances to put up some points. So if we get Swift involved early and he's successful in the run game, A, that helps keep CJ off the field, and B, that's going to make it even better for Caleb when it comes to play actions and sort of RPOs and stuff like that. To be able to have a run game that's going smooth will help tremendously for Caleb and for this Bears team. Also, another way that we can get this win offensively is utilize Caleb's ability to throw on the run, whether that's rolling him out, getting him on a boot, uh, um, getting him mobile. We said that about Justin being able to get him moving, get him on the run. But he's not. Justin was never as good as Caleb is in placing the ball where he wants it to go, especially on the run. That's where Caleb's most dangerous. He's most dangerous improvising, keeping plays alive, and on the move. He's proven that in college. He made a couple throws on the run against the Titans, so it'd be awesome to see him. Uh, to see them move him and utilize his ability to throw on the run. A third way is to win the turnover battle. We won the turnover battle in the other game. We have to find a way to take the ball away from the Texans, whether that's interceptions, whether that's forcing fumbles, blocking punts. Maybe they do it again. Um, that's another way we can help win this game. The last one is to exploit the Texans secondary, especially deep. Anthony Richardson last week completed 9 passes, 9 passes, but he completed them for 212 yards. The Texans show that they can get gashed on the deep ball. So if Caleb is more accurate with those throws, a lot more accurate than he was last week, the Bears have an opportunity to really put up some yards, put up a touchdown or two, and really attack this Texans secondary, especially deep. 9 passes. That's it. That's all Richardson completed for 212 yards. So yeah, hopefully that's one way they can do that on offense. On defense, on the defensive side of the ball, once again we have to find a way to force them to be one dimensional. We have to slow Joe Mixon down. The guy's coming off a game where he ran for 159 yards. Tony Pollard gashed us in the beginning. I think he finished with 80 something, but he had like 60 plus in the first half. So if we find a way to slow down Joe Mixon um, and make CJ Stroud beat us, he can beat us. So the only way then is we need to find a way to pressure him. Pressure, pressure, pressure. If we can shut down Joe Mixon, which is going to be a hard thing to do, uh, we have got to find a way to pressure CJ. It's the only way we're going to beat him is to pressure him and to force passes that our secondary, which is really, really good. We've already had 2 interceptions to start the season. Um, make our secondary flourish with the amount of pressure we have on CJ. He excels inside of the pocket. So if we allow him to sit back there, sit in the pocket, he is going to pick us apart. But yeah, Tennessee Titans strategy. Their offensive game plan should be to continue to feed Joe Mixon. So the opposite of what I just said. In order for the Titans to win, they have to continue to feed Joe Mixon. He had 159 yards last week, which made CJ's life a hell of a lot easier. He was able to just throw a bunch of RPOs, a bunch of play actions, and although he didn't have the big, huge numbers that we were accustomed to seeing CJ Stroud put up, he didn't have to be. When Mixon's running for 159 yards and he's not being stopped, just keep feeding him. So if the Bears can force CJ to beat us, he can beat us, but we still have to pressure them. But that should be their game plan. Feed Mixon. They're at home, so their home crowd's going to be behind them. So if they can feed him and get him going early, Mixon's a tough guy to stop. Defensive game plan, much like what the Titans were able to do, is to just make Caleb's life as uncomfortable as possible. They shut down our run game. Clearly, it's evident in the stats. Our rushing attack was lacking, and Caleb's not going to beat us or not going to beat teams by himself, especially this early into his career. So it's important for the Texans to use that phenomenal defensive line that they have with Hunter and Anderson, and just pressure Caleb and make his life um, as uncomfortable as possible. Moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit about the injury report. The Bears especially. We talked last week about the big three in Allen, DJ Moore, and Roma Dunze. Well, 2 out of those 3 are questionable and will be game time decisions. Uh, Keenan Allen's is questionable with a heel injury that he aggravated in the game against the Titans. Roma Dunze has a sprained MCL, and he's questionable for the game. He was limited yesterday's practice or Friday's practice. So I'm interested to see if he comes out and he plays. If I were the Bears, I would probably sit him and let him rest and get his knee right. He's still young. Um, it'd be nice to just in a game in the grand scheme of things. It's only the second game of the season. Why risk getting a Dunze hurt even more and making it a long term injury? I would sit him and rest him. We have Tyler Scott coming up. I would assume Tyler Scott's going to be active for this game. He was inactive for the last game, so I would assume he's active this game. He can replace one of the two. I don't know if Keenan's injury is that serious, but I'm pretty sure he didn't practice at all this week, so we'll see if he even goes. But also on the Bears injured list, our fullback Kerry Blasingame is out with a knee injury. He's already been out, and then Ryan Bates was placed on IR today with a shoulder and elbow injury, with the designation designated to return. So he's going to miss a minimum of 4 weeks with the shoulder and elbow injuries. So that's the Bears front. Two out of the big 3 are on the shelf as of right now, both game time decisions. For the Texans, the big 2 that I noticed on their injury report. A few were undisclosed or unspecified, so I'm not even going to count those guys. But Juice Scruggs, their center, is questionable for the game, and MJ Stewart is out, their linebacker. So Juice would be a big blow to that team who, he's a solid center from Penn State. So CJ Stroud definitely could use him in the game. Moving on, we have our players to watch. I didn't catch Matt, so I'm just going to roll over his from last week. So Matt's were DeAndre Swift and Montez Sweat. Obviously, we said in order for the Bears to be successful in Houston, we have to run the ball. And DeAndre Swift is our number one, our RB1. Uh, I would like to see him more out. I would like to see him out there more on pass situations, on third down passing situations. But the fear is that he really can't block. He really can't pick up a blitzer as well as maybe Travis Homer or I think Roshan will be active this week as Roshan Johnson or even as Khalil Herbert. So hopefully he is a threat to catch the ball. So hopefully he's in there more on third downs. But we'll see. Also, Nemo's last week or Matt's was Montez Sweat. I'd like to see a sack out of him this week because it'll be important to get pressure to CJ Stroud to make his life as hard as possible. Because that's obviously one of the keys to victory is pressure CJ Stroud. My offensive pick, look, I said it last week. Caleb Williams was too easy, so I went with Keenan Allen. This week, my player to watch is Cole Kmet. I felt like he wasn't targeted as much. And I'd like to see him be sort of another safety blanket where, you know, if the deep routes aren't there, maybe Cole's running a drag across the middle, or maybe Cole's running a curl or running out to the flat, or he can be an option for Caleb, sort of like a safety blanket. If all else breaks down, just hit the safe throw. Maybe it's Cole sitting in the middle, sitting in the zones, sitting in the middle of players and just ready to be that outlet for Caleb. So Caleb or Cole Kmet is my offensive player to watch. My defensive player to watch this week is Kyler Gordon. Um, Look, the Texans have three really, really good receivers in Tank Dell. Obviously, Stephon Diggs coming from Buffalo, and Nico Collins, who went crazy last week. Three formidable wide receivers. They have a big three, like we had a big three. Obviously, Tank Dell's coming off of an injury. Nico Collins showed out last year and was incredible. And we all know what Stephon Diggs is capable of. So Kyler Gordon's going to have his hands full because he's going to take one of the three receivers on any given down. I'd like to see him maybe take the ball away. It'd be awesome to see. Obviously they're going to avoid Jalen like the Titans did last week, but maybe CJ Stroud will challenge Jalen. I hope not for CJ's sake because Jalen's playing incredible football. He's carrying over that All Pro and Pro Bowl year into Week 1 with an interception already. Was the highest Pro Football Focus graded corner last week in Week 1. So Kyler Gordon is going to be an important piece to this defense, and he needs to continue to grow and get better, especially being a nickel back. So he's going to be my player to watch. All right, moving on to predictions. This was a tough one for me to think of a score because I could see the Bears keeping it close and making it close. If they do all the things we said, they control the clock, they run the ball, they move Caleb, they win the turnover battle, they still could really lose this game because the Texans are a playoff team. They're a good team. They have a lot of offensive weapons. They have Dalton Schultz also at tight end. They have Joe Mixon now running the rock. They have Stephon Diggs. They have Nico Collins. They have Tank Dell. They have C.J. Stroud. That team offensively is built to put up some yards, and that team is built to score a lot of points. So I could see it being close if we do all those things and still lose. Or it could be if they can't stop the run, just an absolute shellacking where the Bears get beat pretty bad. But I chose a reasonably close score. I went with 28-21. The Texans still cover the spread, but I think the Texans come away with a win this week, and it's just sort of a learning experience for Caleb and for this young Bears offense, and and this young team that's sort of gelling together. Just what a playoff team looks like. Um, but yeah, I didn't get Matt's score. Maybe I'll just roll it over 24-17 or 27-17. I'm pretty sure he had the Texans winning this game as well. But yeah, that concludes it. That runs it. That is episode 11/12 of The Den. If you're brand new here and you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And look at the link in the description. It's a link to all of our socials where you can stay engaged with us there. If you made it this far, comment Bears Dub. But anyways, Steve, aka Bronx, Matt, who's not here, aka Nemo, he'll be back for hopefully the post-game coverage of a Bears win versus the Texans. Although unlikely, I'd like to hope that the Bears win. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Catch you guys in the next episode.